Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? I hope everybody is staying inside, or at the very least staying safe and healthy right now. And yeah, we're gonna still try to put out some content for you guys so that we can not only still appreciate the tech that we have right now, but also look forward to tech we will have in the future once all of this blows over. And I feel like a piece of tech that we had just before all this craziness began did give us a glimpse into the future, and that is the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip. And that's of course because of its folding mechanism. This is the foldable that I think a lot of people actually looked at and thought, I could use that. So I wanted to ponder for a little bit about what kind of user would actually find this useful and perhaps fun. By the way, I do mean that. We're gonna have some fun in this one. I do have my final thoughts video coming out a little bit later on. After all, I am just over a month of using this phone after getting it when it first came out, and I wanna give you some final thoughts as to why I do think this phone is still important. I'm not gonna bury the lead on this one. This is not for everyone. The main story here is that in order to achieve this folding mechanism, there are some trade-offs that had to be made. So if you are going to be looking for certain features or specifications in this particular device compared to other flagships coming out in 2020, you're probably not going to find it. And that's a bummer because this phone is also not for the frugal. No matter what you're looking for in a smart foldable, you're still being asked to pay a lot of money for it. Granted, the Galaxy Z Flip is cheaper than like the Galaxy Fold or any other foldable we might have right now like the Moto Razr, but it's still about $1,500, and that's a lot of money to put down on a phone that may or may not go the distance as far as its build quality. But you can't deny that the form factor is really appealing, especially for, let's say, minimalists. If you're the type of person that thinks that all of the phones that we have right now are getting just too big for your pockets, well, something that folds down would be really useful for you. I know that for me, I have all of these other phones that obviously provide high-end experiences as well, and I have big enough pockets at all times in order to carry them. But for people like, let's say, women who want to have a little bit more space for other things in either their pockets or in their bags, this makes a lot of sense. But you still have to be careful with it, and that's why this phone is not really for the clumsy. And I'm not even throwing shade by saying clumsy. I don't mean people who just haphazardly break their devices. I actually mean anybody who might have the more than average wear and tear on their devices. So far, I have not dropped this phone, and thank God for that, because I do feel like there's so many moving parts here that achieve this form factor that if I were to drop it on any one of those key points, it would end up breaking the entire thing. There is an ultra thin layer of glass on here that is malleable, but it's also under a couple of extra layers. And speaking of layers, in order for me to make sure that me just opening this device like this doesn't scratch up that top layer, I actually had to get some extra work done on it. You might recall that I had to go to the Samsung Experience store at one point, when it was open of course, and I had to get a screen protector installed. Not only did I have to make an appointment for that, I also had to pay some extra money. So on top of the high price of this device, you are still having to put a little bit more money in to protect that investment. And also, I put skins on here to give it more of a grip, a better tactile feel on the outside, because the outer finish, the glass on there was incredibly slippery, and it actually made me worry that I was going to drop this device at any point. And actually, this particular skin is the Teardown by D brand. It's a really dope skin that you can actually get for a lot of different devices, not just the Galaxy Z Flip, and you can check it out in the link in the description. However, this particular skin shows off one cool thing about this phone, and it's that it has two batteries. But even though it has two batteries here, it may not necessarily be at a full capacity that you would want, meaning this phone is not really for the spec hungry. Two batteries, that's awesome, in two different parts of the phone, but it just goes up to 3,300 milliamp hours. Not only that, the charging is 15 watts, which is far less than other flagship phones that you might see in 2020 for the same price. And then you don't get the Snapdragon 865 here, you get the 855 Plus, which is more than enough for all of the gaming or multitasking or all the things that you want to do on this phone. Obviously, when it comes to spec hungry, I just mean those of you out there who want the latest and greatest and the most recent specifications all the time. And then just the last thing here, there's two cameras on the rear or on the cover, or there are two main cameras is what I'm saying. And those of you out there who want to have 3, 4, maybe even 5 cameras in some sort of stove or big square on the back, this is not going to be it. Now, obviously, the main thing about this phone is the fact that it folds, and this particular hinge is actually quite strong, and you can change the angle of it very easily, and it stays there, which makes it very useful for a number of different people. Let's talk about the first one, multitaskers. That crease in the middle might be a little unsightly, but it does give the phone a natural place to make the cut between two different apps. Now, this particular function is on any other Samsung device, but it's kind of nice that physically it tries to provide that experience on top of just through the software. But what I really mean is that this phone is is actually really useful as kind of a second screen. You have it on the side, and you have it with your, say, social media application, maybe Twitter, maybe Instagram, or anything that you just want to have there easily viewable by just opening up the phone, face unlocking, or using the side-mounted fingerprint scanner, and then you're just looking at your stuff. Bonus points for using the wireless charging on here. That way it's always topped up on the battery while still remaining useful. And then that fold actually helps with those two cameras on the back. It might be a little disappointing for some of you to not have more than these two cameras, but this particular design does help get it into angles that you wouldn't normally get. I illustrated this in a real-world camera test that was over at Pocket Now. You can make the fold actually point upwards so that you don't have to actually like lie on the ground to get that really cool shot from that very acute angle. And also that fold helps with the front-facing camera as well. You can use it for IG stories or Snapchat or other social media platforms like TikTok, which I happen to have one now. Yeah, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And then this one's a little bit specific to me, but I still think it's worth mentioning. The fact that you can angle that front-facing camera is also helpful for long-distance relationships. The phone can stand on its own, and then you just tilt it in such a way that makes it look, let's say, just flattering to you as you're talking to whoever's on the other line. And on top of that, Google Duo, when using one of the new Galaxy devices, provides 1080 streaming. So that's really useful, especially for a long-distance relationship like mine. Honestly, I'm always in a long-distance relationship, but given the times that we live in right now, it might be a long time until I actually get to see my girlfriend. So that's why this is particularly useful for me. And finally, this one will come as no surprise to anyone, but this is just a phone made for anybody who wants something a little bit different. I remember back in the day when we used to have just candy bar phones and the smartphone era didn't quite start yet, that a lot of people were really looking for unique phones to buy, even from other countries. I remember a time when Samsung actually had phones that had flippy screens, but it was still a dumb phone. It just happened to have some smart applications. It was at those times that people really wanted something just sort of fun and unique and completely different. And in the smartphone era where everything kind of looks the same, this is the kind of phone that we've been waiting for. Are there trade-offs in this phone to achieve this design? Absolutely, but I think for anyone out there that's like a true techie or a real gadget freak, this is the type of phone that they've been waiting for, and I personally think that it's a super fun device to have. I've certainly loved using it as my main ever since I first got it. I want to hear from all of you. Why don't you get into the comment sections? Let me know who you think this phone might be for, or who it might not be for as well. Let's have those discussions and let's try to connect with one another in this uncertain time that we're living in right now. I hope everybody is doing well, and I hope this piece of content was something at least somewhat entertaining for you so that you had a bit of a distraction, and I hope you just enjoyed the video in general. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And like I said, let's get into the comment sections and have some discussions. Let's all connect together right now in these uncertain times, and let's try to lift each other up. Let's all have some fun talking about the tech that we love so much. With all that said, thank you once again, and until my next video, I would just remind you to enjoy your tea, everybody.